While it's always great to see new faces join the Smash Ultimate roster, I believe it's time now to remember the fallen. With Smash Ultimate having a roster of such a gargantuan size, there are bound to be many characters who are considered to join the battle but get rejected in one form or another. Kinda like Mario at the end, honestly, which I'm still mad about, by the way. This could be because of Sakurai not envisioning a unique moveset for a character and Nintendo just not being able to give their inclusion the green light. Today I'll be discussing some characters who are confirmed to have been considered for the roster of Smash Ultimate specifically, but were either replaced with another character or extenuating circumstances led to their rejection. These guys were almost chosen to be in Smash Ultimate, and had they been picked, would we have been better off? Or did Sakurai and the team make the right calls here? I'm Siiroth, and today we're going to chronicle these rejected characters and see if there's any hope left for their inclusion in the future. So, Decidueye, why should you be given an invitation for battle? Well, you see, in Smash 4, we've got Charizard as a fire starter, Greninja as a water starter, and I don't see a grass type here anymore, so, how about me? Wait, a solo grass starter? Please, get out of my face. Decidueye has an interesting story with Smash, to say the least. As you saw in his audition, he clearly had a pretty good reason for his inclusion to provide a fire, water, grass core to the roster, but that reasoning kinda goes out the window when the decision is made for Ultimate to bring everyone back from the past. And I mean everyone. Because of this philosophy to market the game as the ultimate entry in the franchise, the team felt that they kinda had to bring everyone back to really sell that. And obviously that included bringing back Squirtle and Ivysaur. Due to the return of those characters in the form of the Pokemon Trainer, there wasn't really that need for the Fire, Water, Grass core to fill out anymore. This meant that the decision was now left to be made solely based on the character's fighting prowess in the eyes of Sakurai and the Big N. When it came for an opportunity to include a Pokemon character, the obvious decision was to pick one from the most recent generation of games. I don't always agree with this philosophy because there are so many great options from other gens, and I feel the choice should be made based on the best available option rather than anything else. Shoutouts to our boy Licky Licky. Come on, he's gotta be in Fighter Fast 2, right? Hashtag Licky Licky for Smash, let's get that trending. But for Nintendo, the marketing potential to include a character from games like Sun, Moon, and the Ultra versions, which had released in recent years at the time, made sense. Maybe you'll get fans of those games to come and buy Smash to play as that representative, or maybe it'll work in reverse for some people, where they enjoy playing as a specific character and are interested more in their origins and want to go play their game. So yeah, it was kind of felt by the team that there had to be a new Pokemon fighter picked from the Gen 7 roster. When it comes to icons from this generation, there isn't a significant standout like Gen 4's Lucario or Gen 6's Greninja, for example. It's not necessarily a knock on the generation's roster or anything like that. It definitely has some great Pokemon. That's just how it is when it comes to the popularity of the mons that were included. Fans seem to gravitate more towards Pokemon like Mimikyu, Lycanroc, Zeraora, Golisopod, Decidueye, and Incineroar. And that's just not my random opinion either. Those are based on the Pokemon of the Year voting results for that particular generation. Now obviously, since this is more recent and Nintendo didn't have the option to examine these metrics, but they obviously must have done their own investigation. Well, maybe not as good as this one, but they still did some research nonetheless. But while the popularity of the character obviously matters to encourage people to, buy the game, the moveset potential definitely matters a lot too. The perfect mixture of the two aspects will create the ideal concept of a new Smash Bros. Fighter. In an interview with Nintendo Dream, Sakurai revealed that Decidueye almost made it into the roster of Smash, but Incineroar was chosen instead due to the character having a more unique moveset compared to Decidueye. This is a very interesting revelation, because it kind of contradicts information previously provided to us by Sakurai. This being that he doesn't like to pick characters for the roster that look like they would appear in a traditional fighting game. This is one of the reasons that many fans cite for why it took a long time for Little Mac to make a playable appearance in the game. The character is based on a heel wrestler and uses many moves frequently seen in wrestling in his moveset. That German suplex is giving me bad memories though. This moveset is somewhat unique compared to the rest of the cast since there isn't really any wrestlers specifically in Smash, but there are plenty of traditional fighters, boxers, and generally buff fighters present. Contrasting that with our sad boy over here, when Decidueye, even when you base it purely off of first impressions, is a lot more unique looking compared to the others in the cast. This is a grassy, haunted, big owl Pokemon that, happens to be a master of archery. Because of course he is. Using a variety of grass and ghost type attacks would surely make him quite a bit different from the rest of the characters, right? Well, maybe not in the eyes of Sakurai. Decidueye would obviously have the ability to hover and fly, but that's already used with characters like Jigglypuff and Charizard. So maybe that component was a problem for the character's eligibility? I don't know, I'm kind of grasping at straws at this point. The point is that this character was rejected for the roster of Ultimate despite almost being the choice. But is there any hope for a future inclusion of Decidueye? I don't want to burst any bubbles of those in the Decidueye fanbase. Wait, not that one. Dear God. But I've got to be honest and admit that it's very unlikely in my opinion. While it's still possible that enough fan outcry is there to complete that fire, water, grass core, and Decidueye for some reason may end up passing over a more modern generation's rep to become the pick, I highly doubt that. They've already passed on the character over a lacking moveset potential, so unless something comes up brand new surrounding Decidueye, what's gonna get Sakurai and the team to change their minds? Sure, they have Pokken as a reference to how Decidueye could potentially be implemented into a fighting game, but Smash is obviously much different than that. True representatives from the same generation as Smash is also only something that Kanto can speak of as of right now, so that could be a factor as well. My rating is 1 out of 10 for a future chance of an inclusion here. I can't give a 0 because hey, never say never with Nintendo, right? But giving it any higher of a rating doesn't seem realistic to me as of right now. So, why should you be given an invitation for battle? Well, I don't want to exaggerate too much, but I'd like to think that I'm one of, if not the most popular characters to the Castlevania fanbase. I have some fun attacks to use, like my sword. Wait a minute, sword? Well man, sorry, that's kind of Fire Emblem's thing, so we can't add too many more. But hold on here, I'm no ordinary swordsman. I beat you to that one, pal. Castlevania is a franchise with a very rich history on Nintendo platforms. Starting out on the Famicom Disk System and then the NES, the series has had many games feature on Nintendo consoles throughout its existence. And while modernly not all of its games are released on Nintendo systems, there's no denying that in the past, many fans have found Nintendo to be the main home for the series. And some series would dream for even that to be a reality. The first protagonist of the franchise was Simon Belmont, which would normally mean that he's the mascot and most popular character from the series, but in this case, that may not be entirely true. While yes, he's an icon of the industry and many people who aren't Castlevania fans are still very much familiar with him, it's very arguable that Alucard, a character first introduced in 1989's Castlevania 3, is the more popular character between the two. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Alucard first appears as a boss in Dracula's castle, but then can be recruited as a playable character. Fast forward to 1997 until his next big appearance, and in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, he actually takes the role as the full-on main character and protagonist of the game. This was a major upgrade in a role for Alucard, and in some cases when a franchise promotes a character to a higher status, it doesn't work out so well at first, but here it absolutely did. The game was critically acclaimed, and one of the most defining aspects that made the game beloved is the character work and story, which contained many twists and turns. And due to the high praise of this game, Konami knew that they had a great character on their hands here, and he would appear in many more games in the future in a variety of roles. During these appearances, more unique and interesting attacks that the character can use have been showcased, leading many to believe that he could work as a fun and interesting representative for this franchise in the roster of Super Smash Bros. Many of these requests must have been compiled in the Smash Fighter ballot, as I recall seeing a lot of vocal fans requesting for his inclusion back then. Not like we're ever going to for sure know that, since Nintendo has never completely released the ballot results. The winner of the Smash 4 Fighter ballot, Bayonetta. Number 1 only in Europe and top 5 in one other region. Yeah, suspicious to say the least. But nevertheless, the many requests for a Castlevania rep to be included were clearly heard by the ears at Nintendo, Sakurai, and those people awkwardly laughing in the background of his presentations, knowing full well that if they don't, they will be, fired. This is because the Belmonts got their big reveal as playable characters in the lead up to Smash Ultimate's release. And yeah, this understandably got a lot of fans hyped up and excited to play as some of the most memorable characters from this famous franchise. But as for the choice to include these guys in particular, what's up with that? Well, let's examine some of the official reasoning and then some of my own interpretation of this situation. Sakurai confirmed in a Famitsu interview that Alucard was at one point considered to join the roster as a playable fighter, due to his wide recognizability as I previously mentioned, and most players being more familiar with his games. However, he felt that fans would prefer one of the Belmonts instead, also stating that it made more sense to make the first Castlevania representative the first character, and then an Echo variant of said character. That idea makes sense because let's say for example that Luigi was a slightly more well-known character than Mario, but Mario was the first main character from the Super Mario series, so it would make more sense to start with Mario and then add Luigi at another point in the future. One additional point that Nintendo may be a bit more reluctant to make apparent here is that when you're trying to promote this game as the Ultimate Edition in the Smash Bros. Series and have an option between two characters, both Simon and Alucard respectively, but one of them you could also make a very similar character based on them to add another name to the roster so that it looks that much deeper. you'd likely go with that option. Yes, I'm well aware that it likely takes quite a bit of time to develop these clone characters, but they're obviously significantly easier to create, because if they weren't, then we wouldn't be getting more and more of them. To wrap this segment up, how likely do I think it is that we see Alucard in Smash sometime in the future? I'd give it a 6 out of 10. My ranking is lowered slightly because I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Definitely not in Fighters Pass 2, and maybe not even in the next entry in the series. We don't have a singular third-party franchise with 3 representatives yet, and I know that Smash is a series that's always breaking the silly quote-unquote rules created by fans, but when they do eventually break this, would they really start with Castlevania of all franchises? No disrespect or anything like that, I'm just pointing out that there are some others that they would likely go with first, with Sonic and Street Fighter being big contenders in this regard. So, why should you be given an invitation for battle? Well, I think this new Xenoblade game is going to be pretty popular, and there's— Hold on, you can stop right there. Alright, I think we're good. We'll have the invitation sent to you soon. Must have gotten lost in the mail or something. So as you saw in that edition, there seems to have been an interesting situation that's happened when it comes to the inclusion of a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 character in Smash Bros. But I think in order to explain this adequately, we need to back things up at least a little bit. The Xeno saga had been going on for many years prior to the release of Xenoblade Chronicles in 2010, but this game was sort of a new beginning for the franchise. Starring Shulk and a lovable cast of memorable characters, this game gained a cult following due to its impressive story and explorative gameplay. A cult following leads to popularity, and then a representative from the series being included in Smash. Or wait, was it Final Fantasy? Shulk was a fun and interesting addition to the roster, making use of the Monado arts from Xenoblade, in this instance being used to change his strengths such as improving his jump or smash attacks for example. And with more and more people now being exposed to Xenoblade, as is the magnificent power of Smash, the series began to grow even further, with a 3DS port of the original and a new game set in a different time with X, both being released in 2015. The sequel to the original, being called Xenoblade Chronicles 2, releases in 2017, just 1 year before the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. The game was said to have started a development plan while the Smash 4 DLC was still being distributed in 2015, and if you didn't know why Sakurai and the team get so much praise, well, there's a big example as to why. Due to this early planning stage and the main development process beginning in 2016, it would prove to be very difficult to include content from games that released a while after that time frame. The Inklings from Splatoon were one of the first big new additions into the roster of Ultimate, so big in fact that they were the first ones who were officially revealed. And they came from a game that released in 2015, so characters in that time frame obviously weren't out of the question. Then as we went further, we got the inclusion of Incineroar, as I mentioned earlier, and that character's debut in Pokemon Sun and Moon occurred in 2016. So that time frame still seems open for eligibility. But when it came to content included from 2017, that's where the lines seem to have been drawn. You see, for characters like Inkling and Incineroar, the team working on Smash would obviously have been given details as to how they would operate in their original games so that they could get a head start on the character's development. This is famously how Greninja was created to join the roster in Smash 4, using almost entirely information provided prior to the Pokemon's in-game debut in X and Y. But it seems that even if early details for games could be provided, it still couldn't save the 2017 releases, which is a massive testament to just how much time and care is put into the development of each fighter. Now there obviously was some minor content included from 2017, such as inspirations behind alternate costumes, certain assist trophies, Mii fighter outfits, and of course PNG images. But hold on a minute, let's discuss a couple of those examples that it just showed. ARMS was released in June of 2017 and was given an assist trophy in Ultimate, being the prominent cover character Springman. The series was also given Mii outfits. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which released in December, wasn't quite able to get the assist trophy for the game, but was able to get Mii costumes at least. In a Nintendo Dream interview, Sakurai stated that representatives from both ARMS and Xenoblade 2 couldn't be included in Smash Ultimate because the roster of the base game was completed prior to the announcement of the games in early 2017. It doesn't seem like there was any issue crafting an interesting moveset for a Xenoblade 2 character, since it was simply the timing that was the main issue here. And in terms of what characters specifically we would have gotten had there been enough time, there are a couple of interesting choices here. Rex is the obvious one since he's the main protagonist of the game, but Pyra is a close second. Potentially they could work together with Pyra as the blade, or Pyra could potentially be implemented as her own separate fighter, potentially being able to transform into Mithra. It could have maybe worked like a Zelda Sheik situation from Brawl, and yes, if you've never played Brawl, they used to be in the same character slot. I know, it's crazy. But it's too bad that we're never going to get to find out what would have happened with the character selection. Or maybe we will. With the advent of the second Fighters Pass for Smash Ultimate, some characters who couldn't be included in the base roster due to time constraints no longer had to worry about this. That selection of characters includes a representative from ARMS, so if ARMS is getting a fighter, why can't Xenoblade 2? Because of this very simple reasoning to me, I'm giving a representative from Xenoblade 2, whoever it may be, a 9 out of 10 in terms of likelihood here. I'm positive that sometime throughout this pass we're going to get a representative from this game just based on the interview, the other details I mentioned, and oh yeah, Sakurai happens to be a pretty big Xenoblade fan, so I'm sure that doesn't hurt the character's chances. I get that Nintendo is choosing the characters, so that personal bias may not be included here, but I could certainly also see Nintendo being keen on promoting a game that's already out on the Switch that has DLC on top of it. Alright guys, I'm getting kinda tired. Who's the final fighter? Wait, what? Slime, out of any of the publicly rejected characters, to me is the most fascinating. Aesthetically speaking, Slime is by far the most unique compared to any of the other characters that I mentioned today. This is so intriguing for a new character because I love when a moveset is crafted for a character that you don't expect to be in a fighting game. An example I love to use for a character that fits this criteria is Piranha Plant. On first impressions alone, I, like pretty much everybody else, looked on in utter shock as to who this new playable character was. Are they seriously including this generic enemy from Mario as a playable character in Smash? And by the way, at that time, the standard Piranha Plant had never been playable in anything ever before, so this was that much more of a shocker. But when Piranha Plant finally released and everyone got to try him out, there was near universal love for this character. In my personal opinion, and it's just based on how I like to play Smash, he's one of the most fun characters in the game, hands down. This comes mainly due to the creative freedom that was able to be explored because of the untapped potential of a playable Piranha Plant. Nobody expected it, nobody knew what was in store, and the development team wasn't tied down in any way because of that. And it's because of this example for why I have hope for what Slime could have been as a fighter. Slime has been playable in random games before, like Mario Sports Mix for example, and uses some interesting moves in Dragon Quest that could be drawn from here, but in general there was a lot of potential for something completely unique. So much so that even before any Dragon Quest representative was announced, many fans were crafting their own fantasy movesets online. So what happened here? Hero is a very unique character, due to him not only having aesthetic variety in terms of the types of heroes that could be included, but also because of that down special allowing him to use a massive variety of moves from the Dragon Quest series. So when you've got a character this fascinating as an idea to include in the game, maybe the idea that you didn't need to use a character like Slime to get a unique pick began to emerge. Sakurai hasn't said much on the subject, which leaves a lot to personal interpretation, but what he has said is that he would have been perfectly fine with Slime as a Dragon Quest representative had Square Enix not allowed him to use the hero. Obviously, we now know what ended up happening, but this is an interesting revelation. Square has been very stingy when it comes to the use of its properties, and if you don't believe me, just take a peek at the music selection for Final Fantasy in the game. It's truly a great selection that they've got there. But because of this reputation that Square Enix had brought upon themselves with their reservation of their games, characters, and music, the expectation may have been from the team that they couldn't get access to the various heroes from Dragon Quest. This is why they seem to have conceptualized Slime, at least a little bit, because they really wanted to represent Dragon Quest, a large series in Japan that has steadily been growing in the rest of the world as well, and Slime is arguably the most recognizable character from the series. But like the Alucard situation, a different character was thought to have been better to be the first to represent the franchise. In terms of the likelihood that we see Slime sometime in Smash in the future, I'll go with a 2 out of 10 here. More likely than Decidueye to me, because if we're getting a new Pokemon rep eventually, there are so many more likely options, but if we ever get a new Dragon Quest rep, this character I think will likely be the choice. But due to how protective Square is, I highly doubt that this will happen. You never know with Nintendo though. Now that was my preferred choice for the next Dragon Quest representative, but what about every other series in Smash? You can check out that video using the link on screen now if you're interested. A special thanks goes out to the channel members, including the big contributor of this month, Jaru. I appreciate everyone's support, and if you want to see the next video as soon as it comes out, remember to subscribe and turn notifications on. I'll see you next time.